If your brain feels exhausted during the day, yet the moment your head touches the pillow, something begins to feel strangely different. A subtle pressure appears where there was none before. Your body suddenly wants to shift positions. You adjust the blanket, the pillow, even the way you're lying down, but comfort seems to stay just out of reach. And most people never realize what may actually be triggering this experience. What's even more surprising is that this may have very little to do with sleep itself, because many adults over 60 are unknowingly repeating night habits that interfere with how the brain prepares for nighttime recovery. Not habits that seem dangerous, not habits that would immediately raise concern, but small behaviors that quietly influence what happens after the lights go out. The kind of habits most people never think twice about, and that's exactly why they often go unnoticed for years. You've probably blamed aging at some point, or assumed stress was simply catching up with you. Maybe you've even wondered if your brain just doesn't recover the way it used to. But here's where things get interesting, because some of these sensations may be connected to a hidden process taking place long before you actually fall asleep. A process that can change how your body reacts throughout the entire night. And once you see the first sign of it, the next piece becomes impossible to ignore. You've probably noticed this happening more times than you can count. You finally settle into bed after a long day. The room is quiet. The lights are off. Everything should feel ready for sleep. But then your body begins reacting in ways that are difficult to explain. And suddenly, relaxation feels farther away than expected. Maybe your heart feels slightly different the moment you lie down. Not necessarily fast, not necessarily painful, just different enough to catch your attention. Maybe there's a strange awareness inside your chest, a sensation that wasn't there while you were standing or moving around. Something subtle that makes your brain stay alert even when you desperately want to relax. For others, the discomfort appears in a completely different way. One shoulder suddenly feels awkward. One hip seems unable to settle comfortably. A position that felt fine yesterday now feels strangely wrong tonight. You shift slightly, hoping to fix it. For a moment, it seems better. Then the feeling slowly returns again. Some people describe it as a pressure that doesn't quite make sense, almost as if something is pushing gently from inside. Not enough to create panic, but enough to create awareness. Enough to keep your brain paying attention. Enough to make true comfort feel just out of reach. And most people have no idea why this happens, which makes the experience even more frustrating. Others notice something different entirely, an unexpected urge to move. First, you roll to the left, then to the right. You reposition your legs, you adjust your pillow, you pull the blanket higher, then lower, yet somehow your body keeps asking for another adjustment. And perhaps the strangest part is that nothing appears seriously wrong. There is no obvious illness, no major pain, no clear explanation staring back at you. And yet something still feels off. Something feels incomplete, as though your body is trying to tell you something without words. And this is where most people start looking in the wrong direction. Think about how many nights you've experienced some version of this. How many times you've blamed stress. How many times you've blamed aging. How many times you've assumed it was simply part of getting older. But what if these sensations are not random at all? What if they're connected by a hidden pattern that most people never notice? Because once you understand that pattern, the contradiction that confuses so many people suddenly starts to make sense. But here's where the story takes an unexpected turn. Because if this were simply about comfort, the solution would be easy. Everyone would benefit from the same sleeping position, the same pillow, the same nighttime routine, the same advice repeated over and over again. Yet that isn't what happens in the real world, And that's where the confusion begins. For some people, sleeping on their left side feels like immediate relief. Their body settles down, their breathing feels easier, the strange sensations become less noticeable, they fall asleep faster, they stay asleep longer, and they wake up feeling more refreshed, at least for a while. But for others, that exact same position creates the opposite experience. The pressure becomes more noticeable, the discomfort seems to increase, the urge to move becomes stronger, sleep feels lighter, the brain remains more aware, and the night becomes a cycle of constant adjustments, even though they're following the same advice.
You've probably noticed something similar yourself. A position that worked perfectly one night suddenly feels wrong the next. A posture that once felt natural now creates discomfort. One evening, you settle in quickly. Another evening, you can't seem to stop moving. Nothing obvious has changed, yet your body reacts differently, and most people never understand why. This contradiction sends many people searching for answers. They buy new pillows, they change mattresses, they experiment with different sleeping positions, they try sleeping earlier, they try sleeping later. They look for simple explanations, but the results often remain frustratingly inconsistent. And this inconsistency creates an important clue, because if the position itself were the real problem, the outcome would be predictable. The same position would create the same result every night, for every person, under every condition. But that isn't what we see. Something else appears to be influencing how the body responds, something most people never consider. The surprising truth is that your sleeping position may only be part of a much larger picture, a picture involving signals your brain processes without your awareness, signals that can change from night to night, signals that may determine whether your body feels settled or restless, whether you remain comfortable or keep adjusting, whether your brain allows deeper recovery or stays partially alert. And once you understand the hidden role those signals play, everything starts looking very different. I'm Dr. William Harris, a sleep specialist, and over the years, I've spoken with thousands of people who believed their nighttime experiences were completely unrelated. Many were convinced they simply had bad sleep. Others blamed aging. Some thought stress was the entire explanation, and a surprising number assumed they would simply have to live with it. But after hearing the same stories repeated again and again, a very different picture began to emerge. What caught my attention wasn't the differences between these individuals, it was the similarities. People from different backgrounds described remarkably similar sensations, the same strange discomfort, the same unexplained urge to move, the same feeling that something wasn't quite right once they got into bed, even when their overall health situations were completely different, and that consistency revealed something important. Many people assume these nighttime sensations happen randomly. They believe one bad night has nothing to do with the next. They view each episode as an isolated event, a coincidence, an unpredictable part of getting older. But when you listen carefully enough to enough people, patterns become impossible to ignore. And some of those patterns appear with surprising consistency. Again and again, the same sequence seemed to appear. First came a subtle sensation, then a growing awareness of discomfort, then a need to adjust position, then another adjustment, then another. Sometimes the person would eventually fall asleep, sometimes they would remain restless for much longer, but the progression itself often looked remarkably similar. What makes this so interesting is that most people focus on the wrong part of the experience. They focus on the movement, the discomfort, the position, the symptom they can feel. But symptoms are often the final step in a much longer chain of events, a chain that may begin long before a person realizes anything is happening. And that's the piece most people never see. Over time, I realized understanding this hidden pattern changes the way you look at sleep altogether. Because what appears random often isn't random at all. What feels unpredictable may actually follow a recognizable sequence. What seems like a collection of separate problems may be connected by a single underlying process, a process that quietly influences how the brain responds throughout the night. And once you begin to recognize that process, an entirely different explanation starts to come into focus. The first thing to understand is this. What you're experiencing may feel unpredictable, it may feel random, it may even feel frustratingly inconsistent, but that doesn't automatically mean it has no explanation. In fact, some of the most common nighttime sensations follow patterns that are surprisingly consistent. The challenge is that most people are looking in the wrong place for answers. And just as importantly, your body is not malfunctioning. Your brain is not suddenly forgetting how to sleep. Your body is not working against you. Quite the opposite. Many of the sensations that seem annoying or disruptive may actually be responses. Responses designed to communicate information. Responses designed to trigger adjustments. Responses that serve a purpose most people never recognize.
Think about what happens when something feels uncomfortable. Your body immediately notices it. Your awareness shifts toward it. Your attention becomes focused on it. And before you consciously decide to do anything, your body often reacts automatically. You reposition, you stretch, you roll over. You make subtle adjustments without even thinking about them. That's because the body is constantly gathering information. Far more information than most people realize. Information about pressure, information about balance, information about comfort, information about breathing, information about internal conditions that rarely reach conscious awareness. And throughout the night, your brain is quietly processing those signals. What many people interpret as a problem may actually be a message saying that something needs attention, a message saying that an adjustment may be necessary, a message that your body believes is important enough to interrupt rest. And while that interruption can feel frustrating, the signal itself may not be the real issue. The real story often begins much deeper beneath the surface, and that's where things become far more interesting. Because what feels like simple discomfort may actually be part of a larger process unfolding throughout the night. A process involving communication between the body and the brain. A process that can influence movement, awareness, and recovery. A process that may begin long before you notice any symptoms at all. And once that process starts, a chain reaction can quietly develop, one that most people never realize is happening, even when they experience it night after night. The surprising part is that many of these signals may be connected by a single underlying pattern, a pattern hidden behind sensations that seem completely unrelated. The pressure, the discomfort, the need to move, the constant adjustments, the feeling that something is slightly off. And once you understand the mechanism that may connect all of those experiences together, an entirely new perspective begins to emerge. The name I use for this hidden pattern is night mismatch, not because something is seriously wrong, but because something may no longer be working together the way it was intended to. Your body is in one position, your brain is processing countless signals, and somewhere in that interaction, a subtle disconnect begins to emerge, a disconnect most people never consciously notice. A night mismatch doesn't usually announce itself with dramatic symptoms. It rarely arrives as sharp pain. It rarely creates an obvious emergency. Instead, it often begins with sensations so small they are easy to dismiss. A slight pressure, a vague discomfort, a feeling that you can't fully settle, a sense that something isn't quite right even when everything appears normal. You've probably experienced this yourself without realizing it. You lie down expecting to relax. For a few moments, everything feels fine. Then your awareness shifts toward a specific sensation. Maybe it's pressure in one area.
Maybe it's an unusual feeling in your chest. Maybe it's simply the growing urge to reposition yourself. The sensation isn't overwhelming, but it refuses to completely disappear. And this is where the process becomes fascinating, because when the body detects this mismatch, it may respond automatically, not through conscious thought, not through deliberate decision-making, but through an internal signal designed to encourage change, a signal that operates quietly beneath awareness, a signal I call the body flip signal, and most people never realize when it activates. The body flip signal isn't necessarily pain, it isn't necessarily danger, and it doesn't mean something harmful is happening. Think of it more as an internal nudge, a message from the body saying that an adjustment may be improved, a signal encouraging movement, a signal encouraging repositioning, a signal encouraging the search for greater comfort. The remarkable part is that many people experience this signal repeatedly throughout the night without ever recognizing the pattern. They simply roll over, adjust their legs, shift their shoulders, move their pillow, and continue sleeping without realizing what triggered the movement in the first place. But once you begin paying attention to the possibility of a night mismatch and a body flip signal, an entirely new question starts to emerge, because these signals may be connected to far more nighttime symptoms than most people ever imagine. You've probably noticed some of these situations at different points in your life. A little reflux that seems to appear only after lying down, a strange pressure in the chest that wasn't there a few minutes earlier, a sensation that makes it harder to breathe comfortably, an ache that appears on one side of the body, or a persistent feeling that keeps drawing your attention back to it. The experience may be different night to night, yet the pattern often feels surprisingly familiar.
For some people, it begins with subtle discomfort. For others, it starts with a growing awareness of their own body. Suddenly, every position seems to have a flaw. One shoulder feels compressed, one hip feels strained, one side feels better for a moment and then worse again. The search for comfort becomes an ongoing process, and the brain continues monitoring every adjustment. You tell yourself you're almost comfortable. You make one small movement, then another, then another. For a brief moment, everything seems improved, but the relief doesn't always last. Something causes your attention to return once again, and the cycle quietly repeats itself. What many people don't realize is that the body flip signal may be doing exactly what it was designed to do. It keeps encouraging movement. It keeps encouraging adjustment. It keeps searching for conditions that feel more favorable. The problem is that every adjustment creates new information for the brain to evaluate, new sensations to process, new signals to interpret, and that process can continue throughout the night. As this happens, the brain may remain more aware than it ideally should be, not fully awake but not completely disconnected either. Part of it continues paying attention, part of it continues evaluating comfort, part of it continues monitoring subtle sensations, and that extra awareness can make deep recovery more difficult to achieve, even when you believe you have fallen asleep. This is why the issue may extend far beyond simple comfort. The reflux, the pressure, the breathing changes, the constant repositioning, the feeling that something is slightly off. These experiences may all be connected to a larger process occurring behind the scenes. And once you begin looking beyond the symptoms themselves, you uncover a possibility that most people never consider, one that may explain why the cycle often becomes stronger the harder someone tries to control it. This is where the experience becomes especially frustrating for many people, because the natural response is to try harder. You try harder to relax. You try harder to stay still. You try harder to stop thinking about the discomfort. You tell yourself that if you can just find the perfect position, everything will settle down. But somehow the struggle continues, and that's what makes the situation so confusing. The more attention you give the sensation, the more noticeable it can seem. You become aware of every movement, every pressure point, every change in position, every small sensation your body is generating. Instead of drifting effortlessly toward sleep, your awareness remains engaged, not because you're doing something wrong, but because your brain is still receiving signals it believes are important. Many people describe this as feeling tired but unable to fully settle. Their body wants rest, their brain wants recovery, yet something keeps interrupting the process. They finally become comfortable, then the urge to move returns. They finally relax, then another adjustment feels necessary. And little by little, the night becomes a series of interruptions rather than a continuous period of recovery. What's remarkable is that these interruptions may be so brief that you never fully remember them. You don't necessarily wake up and look at the clock. You don't always become consciously aware of what's happening. Yet your body continues responding, your brain continues processing, and the cycle continues unfolding beneath awareness, night after night, without most people ever realizing it. Over time, this can create a surprising disconnect. You spend plenty of time in bed, you appear to be sleeping, you may even believe you slept through most of the night, yet you wake up feeling less restored than expected. Your energy feels lower, your focus feels weaker, your motivation feels diminished, and you can't quite explain why. This may help explain why some people wake up exhausted despite spending hours in bed, not because sleep was completely absent, but because recovery may have been repeatedly interrupted in ways they never noticed. The body flip signal may have continued appearing, the adjustments may have continued happening, the brain may have remained more active than it appeared. And once you understand what can quietly fuel that cycle night after night, the next piece of the puzzle becomes impossible to ignore. And this is exactly why some people eventually begin searching for a different approach. Not because they want to force sleep, not because they want to shut their brain down, and not because they believe their body is broken. They simply want to understand what may be interfering with natural nighttime recovery. They want to work with their body instead of against it. And that shift in perspective often changes everything.
For years, many people focused only on the symptoms, the discomfort, the repositioning, the restless nights, the unexplained awakenings. But as awareness of patterns like the night mismatch has grown, some have started paying attention to what may be happening beneath the surface. And that has opened the door to entirely new possibilities. Instead of trying to overpower the body's signals, the goal becomes supporting balance, supporting comfort, supporting relaxation, supporting the natural processes that help the brain transition into deeper recovery. Because when the body feels more settled, the need for constant adjustments may begin to lessen. And that possibility has captured the attention of many people looking for answers, especially those who feel they've already tried everything else. This is one reason nighttime support formulas have become an area of interest for some adults, particularly those designed to work alongside the body's normal nighttime routines, not as a replacement for healthy habits, not a guarantee of results, but as an additional form of support that some people choose to explore, especially when they are interested in promoting a calmer and more comfortable sleep environment and reducing factors that may contribute to nighttime restlessness. The most talked about options are rarely the extreme ones. They're often the gentler approaches, the ones designed to support the body's existing processes rather than overwhelm them, the ones intended to fit naturally into a bedtime routine. And according to many people who explore these approaches, that distinction matters more than they expected, because the objective isn't to force the body, it's to support it. If you're curious about the type of nighttime support many people have been exploring, you'll find additional information in the pinned comment below. But before you jump to solutions, there's something even more important to understand. Because many people focus entirely on what happens during the night, while overlooking a hidden factor that may begin influencing the night mismatch long before they ever get into bed. And once you discover what that factor may be, the entire picture starts to look very different.
If these experiences sound familiar, take a moment to consider something important. They do not automatically mean that something is wrong with you. They do not automatically mean your sleep is permanently damaged, and they certainly do not mean your body has stopped working the way it should. In many cases, the opposite may be true. Your body may be responding exactly as it was designed to respond. The challenge is understanding what those responses are trying to tell you. Think about how often the body protects you without your awareness. Your heart adjusts constantly. Your breathing changes automatically. Your brain processes information long before you consciously notice it. And throughout the night, countless systems continue working behind the scenes. Most of the time, you never think about them. Most of the time, they do their jobs quietly, until something begins demanding your attention. The same may be true of the sensations we've been discussing: the pressure, the discomfort, the urge to move, the need to reposition yourself. These experiences may not be random interruptions. They may be attempts to improve comfort, attempts to encourage adjustment, attempts to create conditions that the body believes are more favorable. The problem is not necessarily that the signals exist. The problem may be that they are occurring more often than they should. A signal designed to help can become disruptive when it repeats too frequently. A response designed to improve comfort can begin interfering with recovery. And once that cycle starts, the brain spends more time processing information than fully disconnecting from it, which can make restorative sleep feel increasingly difficult to achieve. This is why the concept of a night mismatch can be so eye-opening for many people. Suddenly, experiences that once seemed unrelated begin fitting together. The repeated adjustments, the restless sensations, the fragmented recovery, the feeling of waking up less refreshed than expected. Instead of appearing random, they begin to look like pieces of the same puzzle, and that realization alone changes how many people view their nights. But perhaps the most important question still remains unanswered. What actually creates a night mismatch in the first place? Why do these signals seem to become more noticeable after 60? Why do some people experience them occasionally while others deal with them almost every night? And why do certain nighttime habits appear to make the situation worse without anyone realizing it? Because the real cause may have very little to do with what happens in bed, and that is the part most people never see coming.